connection to your website, a div scrolling in from the left or right side. If you wanted to add a little bit of animation to your web page without using Edge or something else, this is how you can do it. Okay. So let's take a look at a few things you need. So this is going to be the end result. You're going to need 3 files. You're going to need a move, or whatever, name it whatever you want, but I called it move div HTML, move div.js, and of course a style.css. Let's go ahead and edit, take a look at what you need for the move div, the HTML. You're not going to need anything more than what we have here. You're going to need to link your style sheet, of course. Put your script source right here, movediv.js, just like we have in the folder. So there's my movediv.js and my style.css right there. Okay. So this is all you're going to need there. And you'll need a div and give it whatever ID you want to give it. So let's go ahead and add a few things to the CSS that you're going to need. So the first thing we want to do, just give the body a little color. So we'll just say body. Background is, I think I used light gray. So we'll just use that for now. And then for my div, you're going to have to make sure the position is absolute. You need to give it a width. In this case, let's give it 500 pixels. A height, let's make it 300 pixels. And you're going to have to give it a display of none. So these are the things you do need. We could give it a little more. Background, let's give it blue like I did. Font, oops. Let's give it, I don't know, 50 pixels. Comic Sans MS. Border radius of, I don't know, 15 pixels. So let's take a look and see what that looks like when we load it up. And we get nothing. And of course we get nothing. Let's take this line out for just a second, just to make sure we get the div we want. So there we go. There's the blue div that we were using. Okay. So make sure that you keep this line in, though. You do need a display of none. So it's not visible when it starts the animation. Okay, so this is what you need for your style sheet. Next, go ahead and open up your move div, or whatever you called it, .js file. And the first thing we need to do is get some information about it. And actually before that, we need to onload here. Onload, we'll call it set div. So we need to call this function set div onload. And let's go ahead and create set div. Function set div. And this is going to give us a few things we need in order to do the animation. So let's say var my div equals document.get element by ID. It was called my div. Let's say number equals math.floor, math.random times 2. And what this line here does is it returns a random number from 0 to 1, and that's gonna, the random number is going to tell us which side we're coming in from. So speaking of side, let's say var side equals, if number is 0, let's come in from the left, and if it's 1, let's come in from the right. we're also going to need a start and stop position. So let's go ahead and say, let's stop it. Stop left equals document dot body dot client width. Okay, so it's good. The div is going to stop halfway through the browser. Okay. But we also need a start. So we'll say var start left, and this is a little more complicated. And it's going to depend on which side you're coming from. So if side is left, if you're coming in from the left side, you're going to start at -500 because that's the width of our div. So if your div, if you made it 1,000, make sure you use -1,000, okay? Or maybe a little more if you put a border on there. Okay, so that's if it's from the left. If it's from the right, it's got to be document.body.client width. Okay, so it'll start way off on the right side of the screen. So those are the things you need to get it for your start position. So from there, we're going to say my div.style.display equals block. Because remember, when it loads, there's no display, so the first thing we're going to do is display it, make it visible. And then we're going to call another function called moveDiv, and we're going to pass in my div, the ID. We're going to pass in start left, stop left, and the side. Okay, so we know what side it's coming in from. Okay. So that's going to call a function called moveDiv, which we're going to put on a set timeout. Okay, so let's say function moveDiv, and we're taking in 4 parameters. We're taking in div ID. We're taking in a start left, a stop left, and a side. And the first one and the last one are strings, so we got to make sure we remember that. So we're going to say if start left is less than stop left and side equals left. Okay, so if you're on the left side and the start is less than the stop, what we're going to do is we're going to move it. We're going to say start left plus equals, try whatever increment you want. 3 seem to work for me. Okay, so that's totally up to you. Whatever you want to do for your increments. You're going to have to test this out on your own. A smaller increment will go slower, and a bigger increment will obviously go a little faster. Okay? So then we got to say if start, actually no, else if start left is greater than stop left and side equals right, RIGHT. Oh, I'm outside my function here. So we're going to say start left minus equals 3. So if it starts on the right side, you're going to move it left 3. If it starts on the left side, you're going to move it to the right 3. Okay? And then from there, all we need to do now is finish this up and say, well, else we got to say document.getElement by ID of of div ID dot style dot post left equals start left. Okay. Actually, that's not right. No. This goes outside. This has to go outside. So let's do that here. Else here, you're gonna say, okay, document dot get element by ID div ID dot inner HTML equals hello world. Okay. So if these are both false, you're going to come here when you're done, and the inner HTML is going to change to hello world. After that, on the outside, you need to move the div over, so you're going to say document, this line right here moves the div to the right or the left, depending on which direction you're coming from. So the last thing you need to do is say, okay, we need to call this function over and over, so we'll say set timeout, and we got to say move div, and it's a little tricky with the quotes here, so be careful. So you're going to move div, and you're going to have a big quote, little quote, plus div ID, because div ID is a string, that's why you need the big quote and the little quote. You need to close that, comma, start left, oops, single quote, comma, stop left, oops, I forgot a plus, plus, big mistake, plus, and plus side. Close that off, and then comma, let's go with 5, and this right here is every 5 milliseconds, so it's going to call this function every 5 milliseconds and then move the div left or right depending on the random number. So save that and run it, and let's hope it works. So there we go, that's my div. I haven't refreshed it yet, that's why it's still there, so let's refresh it. And it doesn't stop for whatever reason. So let's figure out why it doesn't stop. Stop left document dot body dot client with. Oh, here's why it's not stopping. Document dot body dot client with divided by 2, because we want it to stop in the center. Oops. Let's try that. Okay, it doesn't stop quite in the center, and here's why. I set the stop position to be the middle of the page, but I need to move this back a little more, so I need to move it back half the width of the div. So half the width of the div would be minus the div width, which is 500 divided by 2. Okay, so run that, and there you go. I should probably add text align center here to center hello world. So text align center. Save that, and there you go. Some basic div animation, not too many lines of code, and you can call this as many times as you want with as many divs as you want. So here's one more look at the code in case you wanted to see once again. Here's the set div that gets the information, and then here's the move div. And to reiterate, be really careful right here in this line here with your quotes, because the first and the last one are text, so you got to make sure you account for that. Okay? So I hope this helps with some div animation for your website. Thank you for watching.